Okay, it appears that the Haarp transmitters are pushing warm, humid air into the Arctic again to melt Alaska and to melt the Arctic ice. And I can tell you there are two concrete events happening right now that point to this conclusion. First is that they're heavily chemtrailing this area right here. Second is that there is a high pressure area right here pinned in the jet stream. And that's partly why this area is clearing out. And in combination, these two events will cause this this swirl here to bulge upward into the far north of Alaska over the next 3 days. We can see at daybreak these are high cloud tops here. These are high thunderstorms. And nature is actually trying to build this up into a low pressure. That's what's normal. But we can see the chemtrails being laid heavily. Let me go to a better screen. We can see these chemtrails here being laid very heavily right about noon on the west coast. Lots of heavy chemtrails here. And again, it's because this area here is trying to build into a low pressure. But chemtrails will create a hot air layer aloft, which is going to prevent this low pressure from building, from deepening. Also, when the chemtrail out in the deep Pacific, it creates a reflector surface for the big Haarp transmitter. And what that allows them to do is transmit from Gakona, and yes, it's still operating. They just shut down the little 30-acre site. No mention of the one that's like 20 miles long. They bounce it off here and heat this area, so they can maintain this high pressure. So these chemtrails have a dual purpose: suppressing a low pressure from building here and allowing them to rebuild and maintain this high pressure here. So what is going to happen in 3 days if they continue to do that? Oops. Okay, here we are at present. And two things. This high is going to keep this loop building bigger and bigger, and by preventing a low pressure from building there, they again keep this loop building bigger, and it's pinned here. So these three things, we'll just step through and see what happens. This little red loop here, this is that pinned hole in the jet stream. Okay, in 24 hours, we have that loop bulging up, and see this pin here is forcing this to fold up like a train wreck, like the trains folding on themselves, the train cars. In 2 days, and you see this area still hasn't budged. In 3 days. 3 days, this warm air is blown clear up into the Arctic Circle. And let me show you what's happening. Why I can tell you this pinned area is artificial. Okay, this is the SFSU jet stream map, 300 millibar. Now, off the coast of Baja here's where they've got this artificial high pinned. And why do I think it's artificial? Because underneath you see the arrows flowing this way, like a stream flowing around a boulder. And here the arrows, the jet stream is flowing like this, and it's actually making a turn. But here, this whole thing basically is like a boulder in a stream. If it was a real high pressure, then you would see a clockwise flow around here. Instead, we see some clockwise sort of, well, there's no clockwise motion here. But, okay, and that's artificial. When it flows around a boulder like that, that's not how the atmosphere works. If you have descending air, it's got to turn. That's the Coriolis acceleration. And if we look at the current Alaska temperature, we'll just look at Anchorage, 63 in Anchorage. And now if I look at the average annual temperature for Anchorage, this is the average annual temperature. 61 is a high, 36 is a low for mid-May. Okay, for mid-May. So, we're already past the annual average high, and we haven't even blown this jet of warm air up there yet. So this is, we have been thinking that, oh, the Haarp operators are, all of a sudden they've turned nice. They let it rain in Texas for a good long while, a whole week. And they manipulated the low pressure to where it sat there stationary in the Texas Panhandle long enough that 5 inches fell in 4 days, and all of a sudden the Texas Panhandle is now within 0.3 inches of its annual average rainfall, which it hasn't had in 4 years. So, by me being the squeaky wheel, apparently someone was listening and decided, oh, we'll throw this dog a bone. But I'm telling you, drought is nothing compared to melting the Arctic. And after, 3 days, this forecast is pretty iffy, but these first 48 hours, real good model. Okay, so please, meteorologists, if you see me making some dumb statements, making some dumb mistakes, please leave a comment. I'd love to know. I hope to be wrong about all this stuff, but unfortunately I just don't see it. I mean, look at that huge accordion shape right there, and then it reforms again. When it immediately reforms, like right there, that tells you they have pinned the jet stream. And I don't know how these databases are coordinated, but apparently the Haarp future operation is rolled into the forecast to make the forecast more accurate. So when it says, right up here, I mean, look at that. That's just a joke. And that's because this is pinned here. It has to fold on itself. But the Haarp future operation is worked into these maps. So sure enough, 150 hours from now, that's probably pretty dang close. But again, it's all because they've got a high pressure pinned here. And that would be the big Gacona Haarp. And that's why they need this reflector surface up near the Alaska coast. So just when you think, oh, the Haarp people have seen the light and they're going to let Mother Nature start operating normally, no, it doesn't look that way to me. Yeah, they let some wonderful rain fall in the southwestern U.S., but we're far from out of the woods over this. There needs to be congressional hearings over all of this before we're all dead. Just keep in mind, when that shallow sediment at the bottom of the Siberian Sea, only 150 feet deep, when that sediment melts, methane starts pouring out. And when all that methane is done pouring out, the greenhouse gas content in the atmosphere increases by 300 times. I mean, goodbye livable temperatures. The Earth will be a broiler oven. This is a big deal, folks. We need congressional hearings on all this stuff. That's what we need. Someone is doing genocide on a planetary scale. I mean, we Americans, we have paid for this program, and yet they're out there chemtrailing in the Pacific, and, you know, we don't know why. What's going on? This is our tax money out there. If they're going to melt the Arctic methane using our tax dollars, we damn well better have a say about it. This is planetary genocide, and these criminals need to be brought before Congress to have a hearing on all of this. This geoengineering looks very much like it's going to be fatal for planet Earth if it's not stopped very quickly. So I hope you enjoyed this or got some kind of benefit out of this video. But we need congressional hearings on this. If any congressman might possibly be watching these videos, go ahead and start the ball rolling. Let's call these people in and have them testify on what all this is. Okay, I really appreciate you watching this video. Thank you.